Hello and welcome to the Slapshot Syndicate podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more content, and whilst you're at it, go and follow our social media pages. They're on screen now. Now, on to the episode.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Slapshot Syndicate. I don't know about you lads, but I'm excited for this week's episode.
Yeah, there's been a bit of revision going into this one, hasn't there? So.
We've taken this one a bit more seriously, haven't we? There's a bit more pressure on this one with our team of the season.
Yeah, normally we just roll up and about half an hour before have a chat about what we're doing, and no, this time we've been gearing up all week, haven't we, sir?
I think this is the most work I've done in about 12 years, but I've been so excited. This is right up our street, innit? And we've been looking at all the stats and stuff. I want to skip the first 3 segments and just get straight into it.
Well, with that said, let's crack straight on to Seahawks reaction.
Seahawks! Seahawks!
So, fellas, mixed weekend this weekend, double header against Peterborough. You know, winning and a loss. As we kind of said last week, you defend your home ice. It kind of played out that way, so we predicted quite rightly. But what did you think to the home game on Saturday?
Home game was a great game. Yeah, it was very intense. As we knew it was going to. Obviously, coming into these playoffs and stuff, it's always going to get that way, and it's going to be even more interesting in the coming weeks when we verse them again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But no, I felt like we obviously come out of the blocks quite strong. After sort of like the first period, we was a couple up, weren't we? So. Or did Peterborough got one back, didn't they, just before the end of the first period? So went into the second period quite tight, and the whole game was just intense and good to watch really. I think we had some fantastic plays. Obviously, we had Emil Svek hitting his 100-point mark. That was massive.
Yeah.
He got a good reception from the crowd as well. So well done, Emmy. And obviously we had some other notable performances from the likes of Sobchak again, who was just a joke on the ice. Our D-man like Barmer, he got 2 assists that night, had a fantastic game. So yeah, all in all, good night on Saturday.
Yeah, what do you reckon?
It was a good show as to what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I think the fact that we was able to get over the line in the fashion that we did, like with them only scoring the 1 goal was really good. Yeah. We seemed to be in a lot of control. I don't think there was loads of moments where we were sort of rattled. I thought, our netty played well. I think, like you said, Brad touched on our defence with Decken, but I think as a decor overall we did really well. I thought every single line did a good job. It was a good watch really. I'm not 100% convinced that. It's going to be an easy win the next time round because Peterborough can always sort of pull one against you, can't they? But I think Matty and the lads will take a lot of confidence knowing that they won in the fashion that they did.
Yeah, so just to obviously let you all know if you didn't see or have heard, it was a 4-1 win to the Hull Seahawks at home. Personally for me, I just want to note Lee Bonner again.
Yeah.
Since coming back from his suspension, he's
so
been...
good.
Some of the stuff he's done to people since he's come back, the little trickery, the slip movement.
Yeah.
He for me will be a massive player in the playoffs. As we've said before, and like you just touched on a bit there, playoff hockey is a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
It's faster, it's harder. People, a bit more into it.
Yeah.
So when you see players like Lee will just spark a bit of magic here and there, I think he will come absolutely massive in the playoffs.
Yeah. Just obviously going on as well, the likes of Cornell and Hodgkinson getting on the score sheet as well. Well, an assist, should I say? But they're a lot of our top line players and some of the second line players were just showed what there was about on Saturday. And there was some moments, wasn't there? Some of the hockey they was playing, we was in awe, to be honest, for quite a lot of it. So
there's a couple of yelps coming from A block, weren't they, every so often?
Yeah.
But like you say, and you've both touched on Bones and Cornell and even people playing up the lines with Huey not being there, it's great to see it. Like obviously Seahawks, a lot of people say that our first line of forwards, Chamber, Sobchak and Svek is arguably one of the best in the league, but when you've got Cornell and Bones and again Brutz and Huey and Spare, we've got, you don't get as much credit as he deserves. James Spare has been really good for us this year, but it does fill you with a little bit of confidence, We're not going into this playoffs thinking, let's just hope we can get a couple of we can still make a go of it,
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the main things that cost Peterborough in that game was the power play goals. We scored 2 power play goals, and it just seemed to be that sort of game, didn't it? You know, there was some hard hits, and there was quite a lot of, I don't know, what would you call it, chirping at each other, and we seem to see quite a few people in the box. So I think if Peterborough had kept more controlled and didn't get into it and just tried to frustrate Seahawks without getting penalties, they could have quite easily, you know, clawed another one back and would have had a real game on our hands. But as a Seahawks fan, it felt good going into the Sunday game with that momentum, thinking, okay, we might actually have this in the bag. We talked about if you just defend your home ice in these sort of games, then in terms of the standings, it wasn't going to change, which we did. Obviously, it'd have been really a bit of pill to swallow, I think, if we'd have lost that 4th position coming at this close to the end of the season. So
yeah, last point for me on obviously the home game is I was a little bit disappointed with Peterborough, to be honest with you. As a team that has played really well as of late, I was just getting up there because I remember thinking back to it now, but we actually doubled their shots on the night.
Wow.
We had 59, they only had 29.
And it weren't, I know there was a little bit short benched, but you know they still had the big hitters out, didn't they?
We was flying, and the puck was going on the net.
Yeah.
As they say, if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle.
100%.
And absolutely just made the absolute difference there. So we'll reflect now on the Sunday, the away game.
Not as easy as the Saturday night, let's just say.
No, but again, like we started with this segment, I'll say it again. We've always said you defend your home ice, and you look at that, and it's a perfect example of it, isn't it, really? Yeah. So Peterborough Phantoms taking it 5-3.
yeah, it just shows what a home crowd can do, doesn't it? And you know, like we said, this is going to be massive coming into the playoffs. The fact that these games, that every game's a must win, but defending your home ice is going to be absolutely paramount to be able to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think, like, I know we was having a brief chat before we started filming, and obviously we know about the brackets and who's going to play who now in the playoffs. And I think, like, for one of these teams, if they're serious about obviously going all the way to the weekend, they need to take the home ice and potentially take the away ice. I think if you do that, that will be the big first foot in the doorway for me.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I like to say defend your home ice, I think you've got to be a bit more adventurous when it comes to playoffs, and you've got to try and take somebody else's ice.
It's easy saying defend your own ice when you've got Leeds coming in there.
We know we've got Leeds, and I think, I hate to be negative, but I think you just got to, if you get anything against Leeds, whether it's an overtime, 1 point, that is a bonus. Yeah. I think if you look at it as nobody gets anything from Leeds, and then it's the other two you've got to get something against. Obviously it's going to be tough against Peterborough, and I think we can win away as much as we can win at home. And obviously we're waiting to find out who will be our last opponent. It's not obviously set in stone as of yet, but we'll come on to that as we progress through the episode.
All in all then, good weekend for us?
Good weekend, yeah. I think, well, obviously we all predicted it and went with it, that it was going to be a home win and an away loss. Yeah. I don't think we can be too disheartened. Few little changes between the lines. I know we really enjoyed the fact that Chilcott was playing as a centre in the home game. He had a few shifts at centre and put himself about a bit.
Period, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Someone got an injury, I think, and that was it. I think Spare came off in the last period, and Brooks went to second line and was like, well, if he's there, what's happening? The third line came out of the blocks, and you had Reece Edwards, Alex Kent, and James Chilcott. Now, what a line that is!
But yeah, it's great to see, and I think that's what these last couple of games are for, you know, to build a bit of momentum, try people in a different position. You know, when there's nothing really to play for, you might as well try something different and try and rest bodies. And,
and Chilcott got his goal as well on Sunday, so
absolutely massive.
I don't think going away and losing 5-3 to Peterborough is going to be a lung blower for the Seahawks. I think at the moment they're just going to be trying, like you said, they're going to be trying to tinker with stuff and what works. You know, keep getting people points on the board and goals and assists and stuff. You know, just get that momentum rolling, and then hopefully get Davey back and a couple of others, and you know, then you proper attack it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we've got to give a special mention to Luke Ferrara as well, of the Peterborough Phantoms.
Yeah, 100%. Absolute baller. He deserves so much credit. I think he does get credit, but he don't get as much credit as he deserves.
No, he showed us what he was about in this weekend, and this was the same last year going into the playoffs. He seemed to build some momentum going into it, which, you know, is massive for Peterborough coming into the playoffs. But he scored 2 and assisted 1 against us on the Sunday, and he got the only goal for Peterborough at home on the Saturday. So yeah, he's a top player.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a real leader of that dressing room. For me, the other second mention was Jarvis Hunt.
Oh yeah,
You know, he was really giving it some
100%,
against us in the home game. You know, I know he got a few penalties, but he was
busy, didn't he?
he was busy getting around, putting the body in,
Yeah, I agree.
making a real nuisance of himself. And I know he got a goal in the home game for Peterborough, so that was the shout out for me there.
You need those people who are going to stand up to the aggressive and
Yeah.
nasty Seahawks, don't you?
Yeah.
And he definitely did that.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes the Seahawks reaction. Next, let's look at the weekend fixtures. So now we're going to look at the weekend's fixtures, and we had Friday, Saturday and Sunday this week as per usual, and yes, it did also include Leeds on the Friday night. real shock, that one. So yeah, Friday night, first fixture, Romford Raiders and the Leeds Knights. Leeds Knights taking this one 7-2.
Yeah, I think that did what it said on the tin, to be honest.
Yeah.
We predicted it would be Leeds that won that, and
I think you might have said it was going to be quite heavy as well.
So,
Seems to be a bit of a recurring nightmare that for Raiders, doesn't it? Like, I think they've played each other maybe 2 or 3 times since the cup final.
Yeah, obviously Leeds going into that knowing that it was going to be an absolutely massive weekend, as we'll talk about on the Saturday, they needed to keep them wins coming on, you know, to potentially push for that title charge and taking the title. So taking that one 7-2 wasn't a massive surprise really, but a great result for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then moving on, we had the Bristol Pitbulls game against Swindon Wildcats. This was a very, very high scoring game.
I think we predicted
Derby
who would
games.
win this, but I don't think we expected the score line, which was a bit of a madness really. So yeah, Swindon taking this one 9-7.
Yeah, I think shout out to both teams there. Like, that's a very, very competitive game, and for it to be that high scoring,
Just like two boxers just stood there trading blows in it really.
Yeah.
No defence, just see who can stand out in the end. That is absolutely mega. Great spectacle, I reckon.
Yeah,
that.
this was billed as a derby game as well by both teams, and 7-9 in a derby game would be a great watch on it.
Yeah, I think
Everyone's got their money's worth there.
Yeah, I think when we come to the standings, I think, you know, the Pitbulls were a bit disappointed there. They've scored 7, got nothing from it,
Yeah, sure.
and what it's done to them in the league table.
Yeah, you'd have at least wanted an overtime point, wouldn't you?
Not far off as well.
You'd be warranted for that, wouldn't you? And you think I think Swindon would be saying, do you know what, they're good for a point here.
Any team will score 7 deserves a point, don't they?
Yeah. So Saturday.
Yeah. First of all, we had the Romford Raiders at the Berkshire Bees, Azza's team.
Yeah. So
we was keeping an eye on this one, weren't you?
we was, yes. I know at one point the Bees was winning 3-1. I think.
It was to and fro in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was to and fro in a bit, and you know, in the end, the Bees. I don't want to say threw it away because obviously they got the point with the overtime, but massive for Bees that they've got this nice little knack of clinching something at the minute as we're going towards the end of the season. I love to see it because obviously I don't want them on the bottom of the table. So yeah, unfortunately losing 5-4 in overtime. I can't quite remember what the predictions were amongst us for this one. I think we might have all sort of gone for Bees. I think, or maybe was it one way and the other way 'cause it's a double header, isn't
And
it?
don't forget that's an away fixture for the Bees as well. So
Any point you can get away from home as a team like Bees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on then, we have the Hull Seahawks at the Peterborough Phantoms, which we've talked about. Hull Seahawks won that one 4-1, but it was a very good game, very competitive. Scoreline sort of didn't reflect what we were seeing on the ice, I don't think.
No.
But yeah, good to come away with a win on that one. Then we had the Swindon Wildcats against the Bristol Pitbulls.
Yeah, so obviously this is a reverse fixture from the Friday night, which was obviously the 9-7 game. This time Swindon taking it 6-2, so a bit more convincing.
Yeah, maybe just showing who had a bit more gas in the tank there, I think.
Maybe so, and obviously the link home ice for
Yes.
Swindon.
It's a really, it's one of those places where they just seem a bit unbeatable, don't they?
Yeah.
The notable one from this one was Britnell getting his 5 goals on the night.
Yeah,
5 goals
that's
at home is
massive,
great,
that,
isn't it? So
yeah.
fair play to him and the rest of the lads.
Yeah, then the fixture we all wanted to be watching
Fixture of the
night
weekend
was Milton Keynes Lightning against the Leeds Knights. I think Milton Keynes started 1-0 up,
They did.
and it looked like it could be twitchy bum time for
Yeah.
Leeds, but no, Leeds showing what they're about, coming away with a 3-1 win ultimately. So
Can you imagine being in that crowd as an MK fan when you go 1-0 up?
oh,
but that place was absolutely rocking.
And the heartache when Leeds come pull it back and win
Well,
3-1.
we build it as the game which would decide the title, which obviously we'll come into on the Sunday's fixtures, and it was just
Big
that,
contributor, wasn't it?
you know. And is it the fact that maybe Milton Keynes didn't have enough, not really being in that position often? Leeds have, like say, done it many a time, been able to get over the line, and
You said Leeds would win this one. I think I went MK just because of it being home ice. So yeah, I'll be honest. When you've got Leeds coming to your house and you know that you've got to beat them to win, I would have expected a little bit more from MK.
Yeah, I could definitely see your reasoning behind that. To be honest with you,
that's such a hard one. Obviously, I wasn't here last week, but this is such a hard one to call. And I remember you guys when we all got to hockey on Saturday. You was both saying, "What do you think? What do you think's going to win?" And I think I went to to and fro like 2 or 3 times, and because like you both got such solid points, but the resilience and the steel of Leeds to get through that game is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
obviously, like you say, we'll go into what happened on the Sunday, but that was, I think MK put it down as a massive dent in our title charge, and that perfectly summed it up, really, didn't it? They put a huge dent with that big win.
Absolutely. And then the last fixture on the Saturday, the Solway Sharks hosting the Sheffield Steel Dogs, and Solway taking it 7-4.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that one, to be honest, but I suppose it was Sheffield travelling to Solway.
I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think I might have gone for Solway on this one. There's a part of me that just keeps thinking that the Shark Tank.
Yeah, recently you've been back in Solway at home, with good reason as well. They've picked up some really good home form there, and if they can sneak into the playoffs, that they've really got to make the most of the other teams travelling up and things like that. Obviously, mathematically, they're not out. It's not out of sight yet.
No.
I think Telford. We'll move on to next weekend's fixture and stuff like that. But there's a really interesting fixture with that one. But yeah, again, touching on that this result is a huge win against a team that's comfortably in the playoffs now, which is a bit of a question mark for the Sheffield.
Yeah.
Well, I think Solway knew they needed it, and they did just that. So it was going to be hard to beat them.
What message does that send through the Sheffield camp though? If a team in 9 for.
I think Sheffield have been in this real weird sort of rut lately where they're sort of just bumbling along. They're literally bang in the middle of the park. They're not going there. They're not going down here, and they're just. I don't know what it is. They don't seem to have that same sort of flair. I think there was a few weeks where we was kind of like, oh, Sheffield are on it.
Yeah, fire in the belly.
Yeah, and it seems to have faded a little bit, and I think that might go against them as we come closer to the playoffs now, because they've not really got anything going for them.
They're not building that moment.
No, if there was sort of winning each week now, you'd be like, at least they're still winning games.
It's not as easy as being like, well, we'll pull Finlay Ulrich and everybody from the Steelers and we'll be fine. Like, not all it works.
It's not really clicked, has it?
You've got to have the ball rolling. Yeah. Like, if they're coming up against Swindon and MK in their group, like, you can't just trust like 2 or 3 two ways, can you?
Do you know if they've been resting any players or anything recently? Because they've already qualified.
Again, like, it seems to be a real weird one. Like, the names we were sort of picking out, like, the first one comes to my mind is obviously Sam Tremblay. I ain't really seen his name around, so I don't know if he's obviously.
He's got to Sam
there you go, then. So they've obviously lost him, and it's made a bigger impact.
Yeah, detrimental, that, innit?
You wouldn't think that one person could have that sort of hit, but it has, especially when they've got the likes of Walker Sommer in there, who's obviously a class act himself.
He must be splitting himself in 3 at the moment. Whenever you look at a Sheffield game, it's Bjarkli Nordstrom and Sommer who are the points, but like if them two aren't scoring or putting an assist or a goal in there, it's like Sheffield that. You can't rely on 2 players like that because all you need to do is if you're MK, you get your front line and say, right, you mark him out the game, make it hard for them to, and the rest of your lines just
You're
go
just gassing players like that. It's alright for a weekend or two. When it becomes like weekend after weekend after weekend, the players can't sustain that sort of level.
Or how easy for Aronell is it to go, and this sounds bad, but this is okay, Tyler Plough's
give him one.
Go and level him against the balls. I don't care if you get 5 minutes, just take him out the game.
He starts hurting a bit, he doesn't want the puck anymore.
Exactly.
Game over. So we'll move into Sunday's fixtures then. The first one of note, Leeds Knights and Solway Sharks. Leeds Knights taking this one 4-2, which ultimately sealed the title for them.
Yeah, again, as expected, I think. We knew that Leeds had obviously just come off the back of a few games this Friday and the Saturday, so they might have been a bit tired as well, given that they played
3 games in 3 nights, wasn't it?
Yeah, but in the same vein, obviously beating Milton Keynes the night before, energy was up. They knew straight away, we win this, lads. We've taken the title for a 3rd successive season.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did Solway go 1 up?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
I think it's worth a look, but I'm sure
they did indeed.
Solway went 1-0 up. Now, if you're at the Castle, again, like I'm going back to the MK thing, the resilience of Leeds to come back and fight that back is brilliant, but Oh, what a viewing that would make. Like, Solway going 1-0 and everyone being like, no.
But to be fair, in the same vein, we've just mentioned about Solway and how much they need the points.
Yeah.
So they had to go there knowing that they could really do with any sort of
100%.
points from that game. And obviously they went in with the right attitude and right game plan and obviously took the lead.
But,
It just, in the end, as we keep
Leeds
saying, Leeds are Leeds.
Yeah.
Maybe that goal got them Solway going 1-up as well. Just United, that fire in Leeds belly. They want to win it, but they definitely want to win it at the Castle.
Yeah, at
So-
home. You want to win the cup.
Yeah.
That's
you're
a
gaff,
team.
don't
That's
you?
a team full of winners. That you can
Yeah.
look first, second, or third line. Like you take a player from every single
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
in your team every day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously that shone through in the end. And you don't win 3 league titles in 3 years without having that in you.
No,
So,
absolutely
an
not.
absolute fair play to them. I think we should all, give credit where it's due.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well deserved winners, but an amazing title race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one of the better ones.
So then moving on, we had the Peterborough Phantoms at the Hull Seahawks, the second of the double header. Peterborough coming away with that one 5-3. We've obviously touched upon this in the Seahawks reaction where we expected both teams to just defend their home ice, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So we won't go into that one too much.
No.
We had the Berkshire Bees against the Romford Raiders, which was again second of a double header.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the Bees coming out on top with this one.
I went for a Bees 4-point weekend here,
Yeah.
and it might have been a bit like, what's he on about? And do you know what? I was close.
Yeah,
was very
3
close.
point
3-point weekend for the Bees.
Credit where it's due.
You know what? I saw it coming. Unfortunately, obviously they couldn't do it. Went to overtime the Saturday night, but yeah, the Bees at home, different gravy. Absolutely class that.
Yeah.
3-point weekend, and obviously we'll look how that does for the standings. But I'm over the moon with that. Fair play to
I
them.
hope they can keep that group together or build on it and give it a good go.
It's a
next
good
season.
foundation.
I'd love it. I think after the first half of their season, I was thinking earlier today, and if they'd have had like an extra month with the squad that they've got now, they could have snuck into 8th, couldn't they?
Yeah.
I think.
I think you're right. There, to be
there
honest.
was like really down and out for months one day because they were so short bench. And I think I remember one time they came to us with like 11 or 12 skaters, and it was like you felt so sorry for them.
Yeah.
But now they've got that little solidness to it. They've got a bit of bite, like with what happened with that Sir Sennis.
Yeah.
There was a bit of an ugly scene on the night, wasn't it? With
Yeah.
the Romford player who gave him one when he was on the
Yeah,
floor.
I was hitting him on the floor.
Pushed off the ice and stuff. But
Yeah.
fair play for biting back and having that backbone about you and saying to other teams, no, we're not going to lay down.
Yeah. Where teams have sort of just petered off towards the end of the season, they've just sort of not really raised heavily, but they've just kept steady and just had these little peaks and troughs of decent performances along the way. So
Definitely.
fair play to them for going all the way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then we've got the final fixture of the weekend, which was the Telford Tigers against Milton Keynes Lightning. Obviously Milton Keynes had known that Leeds could have won it on the Sunday,
and
so-
obviously there was 45 minutes behind Leeds as well, so the news had come through
yeah.
long before. Obviously they finished their game, which might have contributed to the 9-5 in the end.
I was going to say they just knew though that they could only control what you can and sort of don't worry about what you can't. So that's what must have been the mentality they went in with, and they've gone and done a bit of a job on Telford there.
Yeah, fair play to them for going and still getting the result. Like I said, they needed a favour from Solway. They'd probably been a bit disheartened about the night before losing to Leeds, but they knew the still had to pull themselves together, get down to Telford and give it a game, and they did. They still won, but unfortunately, when you're relying on favours, it's not likely to go your way, is it?
No.
And I think ultimately what we've got to look at for Milton Keynes is that there is still something to get. Just because Leeds have won the title, the playoffs are still there, aren't they? And how amazing that they've played this season, and some of the performances they've pulled out. There's still something for there. And imagine if there was ended up being like a Leeds and MK final. That'd be such a
Try and get
opportunity
one
for him
back,
to sort of be like, no, like you count us out.
It's an interesting one for me because obviously last year where everybody banked on Milton Keynes to get to the playoff weekend and they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Is there maybe a bit in the camp where they're just that deflated after gunning it for weeks and weeks to go for the title? They're a bit like, oh, we're a bit running low now. You know what it's like when you've just had a bit of a hit and you're a bit deflated.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick yourself back up.
I just think with the group that they're in, they've got Romford, Sheffield, and Swindon. It's looking like, don't they? Because they're second. If they don't get to finals weekend this year, I'm going to throw out there. That's a big flop for me. Against the Raiders and Sheffield, they're two teams that no disrespect to their fans, but Milton Keynes should be beating them.
Yeah.
If you're worthy if you're worthy of being up there for that title race, then those are two teams that you should be beating.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, then
you bottled it.
It's the blunt way of saying it.
yeah.
So we'll look at the standings then and see how the table looks on this penultimate weekend.
Yeah, so obviously, as you all know, Leeds come out champions this weekend. They played 52 games and 83 points, so fair play. I think that there was going to be a tough team to beat, and as much as we enjoyed the competitiveness, they've just shown the class, haven't they, to go all the way to the end, so fair play.
Yeah.
Then in second, we got Milton Keynes Lightning. They've played 52 and are on 79 points. In third place, and not so far off, Swindon Wildcats. They've played 52 and are on 74 points. So,
and they've had a few, certainly in the last 6 to 8 weeks, they've had some results where we've looked at it.
Eyebrow raisers.
Yeah,
that's true.
You know, I think if they could have sustained a bit more quality along the weeks, they could have easily taken that second place.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate.
But again, it's something to build on for the next season.
Of course
I think,
it is.
You know, I think when you look back at the beginning of the season, it'd be interesting to go right back when people were saying what. I know Hull was tipped to be one of the better teams in the standings.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think Swindon was that high.
That Swindon project it looks really good.
Yeah.
I think give it another season or two, and they'll be right up there. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then in fourth position, we've got the Hull Seahawks. They played 52 and are on 64 points. So I think that's just probably left the top four where it is now. I say that with hope. But yeah, then just after them, we've got the Peterborough Phantoms in fifth. They've also played 52 games and they've scored 61 points.
So as you was referring to there, obviously you'd expect Hull Seahawks to stay in fourth, but it's only 3 points with 4 points left for the end of the season. Leeds come to Hull in one of the last games, so maybe you wouldn't expect Hull to get much of anything. So it might just be a case of Hull having to just get that Sunday game, and get it in the bag. And it's an interesting one. I know it doesn't mean much, but
it'd be a shame after all this season to be like the fourth horse, then drop down into fifth. It'd be a bit of a crap one, that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then in sixth position we've got the Sheffield Steel Dogs. They played 52 and are on 54 points, so a little bit of a gap there between sixth and the rest of the pack.
I think that's shown, like I've just said, they've been a bit bobbling along. They haven't been in trouble, but they haven't really been in it. So
but at one point we did think that Sheffield had the ability to be up there, and them few places from 4th, 5th and 6th, they was looking quite
I don't think it was
close.
too far away that we was almost discussing Sheffield being in our group, and they have just sort of like petered off a little bit, haven't they? And I wonder if there's a message there that'll just say let's just stay healthy until the playoffs and go for it. But
I'm glad we've avoided them. As I've already said to you, we go there and we get sold.
They upset us a while ago, didn't they? Actually,
we've had a lot of bad games when we go to their place, and when you go into a place and you've barely won there this season, and you think we've actually got to win now.
Don't fill you with confidence.
No,
it puts a bit of not unnecessary pressure, but that extra pressure on.
I know the travel's good, obviously being local side, but when you've got that much juju against you, and it's a bit, no thanks. I'm glad we avoid them personally.
Yeah, so then in 7th position it's the Romford Raiders. They've played 52 and are on 49 points. So relatively decent season for Romford. I know they'd have been pushing for more, but I don't think they've been particularly bad. I
actually want to supersede that, and I think it's been a really good season. You forget that they got to a cup final.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if you'd have said to them, you're going to easily qualify for the playoffs, and you're going to have a cup final, I think they'd have snapped your hand off.
I think at the start of the season, if you'd have offered them qualification for the playoffs, you're always going to play hard teams in the playoffs. If you're in the playoffs, you deserve to be there. So you're going to be a good hockey team. Yeah. If Romford would have been happy with that, 100%, and like you say, the cup final is.
I don't know. I don't know if you're necessarily happy with it. I just think you obviously don't come into this league going, oh well, we're quite happy with the bottom half of the table. No team saying
being a realist, Romford will look at the likes of Leeds, Milton Keynes, Swindon, Hull, and just be like,
we aren't quite that level. We
No,
don't,
no,
even the
exactly.
project as a whole, they're not
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that level.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, they didn't just get to the final. They won one leg of it.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know what I mean? So there was
pushed
there was
Leeds to the
there.
end,
There
didn't
was
they?
seriously
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
They didn't just get there by having an easy run.
What was it, 9-6, the aggregate as well?
And
So they
not
didn't
being
lie
funny.
down, did they?
No,
Yeah.
look at us last season when we played Milton Keynes in the cup,
Yeah.
and we was
It
embarrassed.
was
out of it.
devastating, that one.
Yeah.
You went to the final and that
Yeah,
was a
man.
bad thing.
We got
At
packed
least,
at
if you
Milton
were a Raiders fan, you at the end of that Leeds game, although you'd have been gutted, you'd have been like, fair play to all of them because
They took it to the castle.
Yeah,
I'm just saying though, like if you are Romford Raiders, you're still going to look at that and think, well, we've obviously underachieved if we can do that in the cup and not in the league. As a a fan and us being able to watch it from the outside in, you would say, yeah, it's quite a decent result from them.
Yeah,
above Raiders in that league though, who do you think that arguably, with Sheffield having that extra little bit of, firepower and stuff from the Steelers, I don't know if there is other teams. Where
I think the only team they could overtake is Sheffield. Like you say,
Yeah.
Sheffield have more options.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's that thing, you either over-promise and under-deliver or under-promise and over-deliver,
Yeah.
and maybe
I think
Romford
they've
have done the
definitely
latter and
there's
the
definitely
latter.
room for improvement. Obviously, Big Miller in there. He's been classed
Shaw
this
Miller and
season.
Shufelt have carried, haven't they?
They've had some good players in there this season. If they build on that, I think
Yeah.
there is potential for them to be a fifth place team.
Yeah,
Oh,
100%, yeah. It'd be, and that just makes it for a better league. Like, you can look at all these teams and a couple more players, like you could, I don't know, pick a few lads from the NIHL 1 or, even like, fingers crossed, some like English Brits from the Elite League maybe like dropping into their local teams. Like, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Like,
absolutely.
it'd be really good.
Yeah, so we'll move on then. In 8th position, Telford Tigers, they've played 52 and are on 46 points. Just below them, in 9th, Solway Sharks played 52 and on 42 points. So
obviously, this is the last sort of battle for the end of the season. It really, it's a 4-point gap. Telford need to lose both, and Solway need to win both.
And you said, I think mathematically it can be done.
So there's 2 games left, and the Sunday game. I don't want to spoil it too much for people who don't know, but Solway's fixtures are very interesting next week. If it goes down to the last game, it'll be a belter, but I won't go too far into that yet.
Yeah, but in my opinion, I think probably the 8 you're looking at there are the 8.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we've said that for a while now.
Yeah, in 10th position, we've got the Berkshire Bees, who unfortunately haven't qualified. They played 52, are on 35 points, but again, have put in some decent shifts recently. So
And last.
Yeah.
And last.
Plum last.
Yeah, that's the one.
In 11th, we've got the Bristol Pitbulls.
Bristol.
And how many points?
32 points.
And how many is that clear of them, are the Bees?
Yeah, 3 points clear.
Come on, then!
No, they've done a job there, the Bees, to be honest.
Yeah. I honestly hope they hold it out there. Like you said, there's 4 points left. If they get a win this weekend, they can't be overtaken, which would be absolutely magic.
Mega.
Love to see it.
Absolutely fair play to them.
And that concludes the standings and the fixtures from this past weekend. So now we're going to go through our team of the week this week, and we did have a bit of trouble picking some of the players this week. It was a bit of a tougher one again. I know there was some nice milestones, some achievements, but it just seemed a bit difficult to try and vary it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll come to you first, Rossy, with our first member of the team of the week.
One of the more, I'd say, solid choices this week, just based off 180 minutes, a 95% save percentage. He faced 100 shots this weekend and saved 95 of them, and ultimately that was a massive contributor to a 6-point weekend and the league title win. So we've gone for Sam Gospel of the Leeds Knights.
Gospel says no.
Gospel says no.
Yeah, no, he has to be in there, doesn't he? I mean, obviously the season is hard, and taking Leeds to, ultimately the final fixture where they won the season is just massive. And do you know what? If you could have him in any team, you probably would.
Yeah, I was going to say it's easy to look at goal scorers, but that guy he wins games.
Yeah, but we'll come on to that in the next segment. First defenceman is Kel Beattie. He had a 2+0 versus Sheffield. He's had a fantastic night, so fair play. And Azza, over to you for our next defenceman.
Go on, James! Yeah, one of our own, James Chilcott.
Yeah.
We've noticed over the past few weeks he's been solid, and I think he's had a really good, solid season.
He was out of the team for a while as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know there's too much information on that, but you can definitely tell he's been back out,
Yeah, he's just solid. He's
And
one of
this
those
weekend,
players, he'll give you a 7 out of 10 every week.
Yeah, 1000%.
You know, he won't get you loads of points, but he'll be somewhere in the build-up, and he's clever in what he does.
But he's massively improved as well, and from last season. It was noticed quite a lot by us in the stands.
Yeah.
He just seemed to be a different player for a lot of it, and when we first came back, I think his improvement was notably one of the best in the team. So for him now to be in the team of the week.
Yeah, so he was solid on Saturday, like we say, played great in defence, and then had a spat in centre and had a little go on goal, so fair play to that.
And if that had gone in, it would have been scenes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolute scenes.
You know,
just because Alex Kenton had got one of the assists.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, a goal and assist, which, fair play to him. I know it doesn't seem like either of the defencemen has done anything too remarkable, but it's bigger than points this week for me. It's been some solid performances by good, solid players.
Kilby, he had, just to touch on him again, he had quite an hard game on the Sunday against Leeds, and for only to be 4-2, that's an admirable one for him as well. So that's fair to him.
Absolutely. Our first forward, you could say it's one of our own again, but I guess it's just one of my own. It goes to Dominic Gavage of the Berkshire Bees. They've had a class weekend. 3-point weekend.
Pull away from Bristol.
Yeah, absolutely. Just almost securing that next place up in the league, not finishing bottom. 6 points.
Yeah.
He's we've said it a few times. He's been really good for the Bees this season.
Goodbye, Balaj and Stead are so important. That first line for Bees
and the players that have been round at that club for so long. They must be knocking on the door for testimonials at this point now.
We'll make it known for that.
Yeah,
imagine.
Absolutely.
It is that
we'll
way.
do the puck drop on the testimonial. I'll be in there.
Come on. That'll be it.
Yes, our next forward, he's been in the team of the week. Probably more than most, I think, since we've been doing this. Pretty sick of saying his name, but it's Jake the Snake Bricknell. He's had a fantastic weekend, scoring 9 points overall, and he had a 5-goal game
on Saturday against Bristol.
So absolute massive performance. He's been massive for Swindon this year and
breaking 100 points himself as well. Which
points. He's just honestly been class. There's not really much more you can say about him. He's just consistently good. So fair play
to you. And finally, again, I mentioned Leeds player earlier. I'm going to mention another one again. One that also hit 100 points this season. And what I wanted to note that actually for a while, people tend to forget that he was injured for quite a while, courtesy of one of our own, wasn't we? Got splattered against the board by Phillips, and it took him a little while to sort of get back up to speed, but for him to reach that 100-point mark and obviously be a part of that title-winning team, and you got 4 + 2 over the weekend against MK.
Go on,
it's Kieran Brown.
Yeah, I just want to add to that as well. I think it was last weekend did the Hull Seahawks play Leeds, and I think he scored 4 in that game. Yeah. Like you say, towards the sort of last quarter of the season, he's really turned it back on, and like you say, he put 4 past us, and we were just like, oh, there we go, he's back.
No, he's a class actor, and like you say, he very well could have been the first one to hit 100 points. Had he not had that
in full season. That's great.
So big congratulations to all that have made it to the team of the week this week, and that moves us on to our big talking point,
the big one.
So now we're going to go into this week's big talking point, which we alluded to last week, and it's been like a kid's crash.
I cannot wait.
It's been the perfect mixture of research, arts and crafts. Honestly, you couldn't pay for this at summer camp if you wanted it. So obviously this week's big talking point is team of the regular season.
Show them off, boys.
So we've made these absolutely fantastic.
Come on, let's show them off. One for the gram. Hey.
We've made these absolutely fantastic little layouts so we can go through each of the positions and go through each of the players we've picked.
Definitely.
Just to remind you, if you didn't watch last week's episode, we set ourselves little challenges to this. So we said that it could only be 2 imports and only 1 player from a team. and that made it quite interesting
Tough all
for
go
us.
on it.
Yeah.
And before we started filming tonight, we decided to go a little bit further, and we've gone for 3 honourable mentions as well. 1 being an import and 2 more British players. This was free for any position, so we could have 3 forwards, 3 defencemen, more goalkeepers, or whatnot. So, as we said last week, we'd love for your input on this. Please do get in touch. We are going to put a copy of this, hopefully attached to the YouTube video, so you can download it yourself and edit it. But with that said, lads, we can finally release some of this pent-up energy we've got.
It's exciting.
And let's get into it. So I'll go first with my goalkeeper. And my goalkeeper is Jordan Headley of Milton Keynes Lightning.
Very nice.
This guy has been absolutely class all season. You know, it's obviously Milton Keynes went close the weekend before last to winning the title. We've seen him play, obviously, against us. He's won games on his own. 90+% save average over the season. You know, he's up there as one of the top 3 goaltenders in the league. You could say many a thing about this guy, but I think he's been world class, and that's why he's gone in my team. Difficult. I know a lot of people have probably gone for Gozzi, but with the limit of 1 player per team, Leeds, I thought there could be somebody else in there I could pick from this. So instead I went for Jordan Headley.
It's a great shot.
Fair play, fair play. So, as you suspected, my goalkeeper is Sam Gospel. I don't really need to say that much about this guy, do I really?
You ain't got much to say about any of your players from what I've heard.
He's been...
I picked him.
This is my team of the season, not yours, so don't worry about it, pal. But yeah, no, he's just been phenomenal all season, and obviously not just that, but his consistency with it as well. He's been just solid for Leeds. I think that obviously they've got 2 good goalkeepers, but he still comes out on top. So he's got the competition there. He's taking it to the rest of them, and he is the standard to beat. Yeah. So that's my reason.
Okay, so my goalkeeper of the season is the same as one of yours. It is
Gozzi.
Sam Gospel. Yeah, in total agreement with what you said there. I've been absolutely reading into all the stats. He's faced 1,200 shots this season. He's conceded 100 goals. He's got a 92% save percentage. You know, I think he's the goalkeeper in the league who's been part of the most wins, with 33 wins. But again, that's a whole collective thing. I think, you know, you could go on for days about how good the outfield players are in the Leeds camp, but ultimately I think Gozzi's a huge part of that team. He's a huge reason why they won the title 3 years in a row. So that's why I don't think I could choose anybody else. Although I really like the Headley shot.
Cool.
I'm interested to see.
I'm interested. Do you want to do your D first, and we'll go back this way?
If you want to, or we can just keep going round. I was just going to say first round of picks, and I'm not surprised by any of them so far. You know, I think all 3 of us could have gone for Gospel.
Yeah.
Obviously, again, as we said, it's down to the picks and who we think further along the lineup makes it a bit more interesting.
Yeah. You've also got to think about your team's sort of chemistry, who you're going to have where, and if you, for example, on your outfield, if you go for all point scorers, and you've probably got no one there that's going to do a bit of dirty work and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. Let's move on then.
Do you want me to go?
If you want to go first.
Yeah,
right. So my first defenceman is the 2nd top scoring British defenceman in the league. In one of our recent interviews, his teammates said that he has brought stability to the team, a bit of leadership. He's got previous experience in the Elite League, but ultimately coming to this team this year, it's been brilliant. Lots of people have said so many good things about him. I've actually got his stats as well. Obviously, he's got 39 points in 47 games as a defenceman. So my first defenceman is Ed Bradley from the Swindon Wildcats.
Yeah, good pick. Surprise for me, to be honest with you. I think the defence was always going to be the bit where we'll all sort of differ a bit here, and it's going to be the most interesting one. A good shout, like you say, lots of points. You can't fault him for that.
Yeah.
We've seen him a few times. He's played very well.
Yeah.
Good quality defenceman. So yeah, fair play on the show.
I think with that project that Swindon are trying to build, if you look in comparison to last season, defensively they've been a lot better. And
yeah.
obviously a big contributing factor to that is Ed. So
Yeah.
Okay, so my first defenceman is also the Swindon Wildcats. I've gone for Tyler Plews. My reason for going for Tyler Plews is that he's just a good all-round solid D-man, good in front of the net, and he's also part of the rationale of why I picked my second defenceman. So first of all, just wanted to go with someone that, one, can drop the gloves, two, is going to put in them big hits and protect his forwards and his keeper. So that's the reason they've put him in there.
Yeah, I think again you've picked a great player there. Great guy, obviously. You two having a good chat with him, which was a great listen.
Brilliant, lad.
You know, we've talked as you talked to him. He mentioned about how we play with Deck Barmer.
Yeah.
Sort of similar sort of game. Likes the rough and tumble. It's not always about points scoring. You need a guy who's going to be reliable and put his body on the line and protect his teammates. And Tyler's one of those guys.
Yeah.
So absolutely
100%.
massive. Coming to me, so 2 different ones, and I'm going to complete the hat trick because I've gone for somebody completely different again.
Oh, yeah.
My first defenceman is Jonathan Kirk of the Sheffield Steel Dogs.
Nice. It's a good show, that.
So this is obviously a bit of a different one to what you guys have said, so I'll just pull up me little notes for JK.
Steely Pop.
He's been class, to be fair. Again, you'd be probably quite surprised by what he's done this season. 31 points.
Fair play.
7 goals, 24 assists. You know, he's one of those guys who's in the leadership team for Sheffield.
He is.
Obviously, he had a bit of time with Hull,
Mhm.
for the Hull Pirates. Great guy again. I know my old man was a big fan of his. For a smaller guy, he gets about, sees the game well, reads the game well.
He's a presence in it. Like you can tell that he's a captain in that team, and you know, like a leadership.
Yeah, like you say.
Like, it just brings that to the team you want to play for him, don't you?
Yeah, 30 plus points is great for a defenceman.
Of his
obviously,
age as well.
as you said.
He's not the youngest in the team,
No.
but he's still putting away the points. So
Yeah,
fair play
and
to
he's
him.
just a calm presence, like you say. He's one of those guys which will give you the solid 7 out of 10 every week.
Mm.
You know, I just can't fault him. I think any team would take him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's my first defenceman.
Fair play.
Do you want to go back to yourself for your second round?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. My second defenseman is from the Milton Keynes Lightning. So similar to yourself in the defensive area, Azza. I've gone for, and someone who we were quite impressed by in the most recent game, Malik Martelli. So Malik is one that I've based off personal viewing. The way he gets around the ice, the speed he has, the agility he has, the way he can move the puck, the way, you know, the contributions he's got as well. Like he's not lacking in that department. I've got the info. He's got 26 points in 49 games. You know, so obviously he's not shy in that respect. But I think a huge part of MK's push this season in terms of their defence was their title push. Sorry, was in terms of their defence. And I think Malik just brings that. He's sort of a different kind of defenseman. I think when you think of a hockey defenseman, you think of a big buff guy who's going to board people and do this, that, the other. But the way Martelli sort of makes up space and, you know, can recover long pucks that have come in and shut down the attacks and stuff like that is really admirable. And I'm a big fan of Malik, so that's why he's in my team of the season.
Yeah, solid defensive unit. That I like it a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you now, not 2 players that I haven't even I ain't considered, to be honest with you, but 2 solid defensemen. I really like what you've done.
Yeah.
Cool. So my next defenseman is not been shown yet. So I've gone for Thomas Norton from the the Peterborough fans.
Do you want to tell them what you've done?
Yeah, I've gone for Thomas Norton.
Do you want to tell Aaron what you've done and the rest of everybody else?
I'll tell you in a bit.
No, why don't you tell the fans why we're laughing?
I won't be pressured now. Thomas Norton.
Have you bottled it? Did you pick somebody else?
For the record, everyone, Brad has wrote Tyler Plews and Tyler Plews on his sheet. One job and he's put Tyler Plews in both spots.
I've done that.
I know he gets everywhere, mate, but Jesus.
I know.
You can't split him in two, mate.
But no, not to take
He's
away
going to think you're really weird now.
I'll go for Thomas Norton from the Peterborough Phantoms because he's been an absolute solid D-man this year, and he's also scored 43 points across the season.
Yeah, he's actually he's the top scoring Brit D-man in the league.
Yeah, and he also got 11 points in the cup as well. So he's been an absolute standout performer for me. And obviously mentioned earlier, putting Tyler in there, having him as like the big heavy hitter, and then Norton there who's going to put in the assists and points. So that's my rationale for that.
I like it. And do you know what the weird thing is out of all our defensemen, none of us have picked the same player.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So my final defenseman of the Telford Tigers is Rhodes Mitchell-King.
Like that.
So I've gone for a similar sort of play that I did for JK, and this is another high point scoring defenseman, 37 points this season, 9 goals, 28 assists. Somebody who probably wouldn't be the big name of Telford, but obviously you look at the stats, he's been quality.
Yeah, 21 years old in as well. He's an argument for Young Player of the Year.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Another reason why I've picked him, a good young player. You know, I think a lot of teams would be trying to pick him up and.
If they could hold on to him in a couple of years, they'll have a hell of a player on there. So
the issue there for me is obviously Telford is around a few other places.
True.
You know, I think even Milton Keynes might be trying to. Do you want to come over here?
Yeah,
you can shore us up for next season. You know, a good solid defenseman, point scoring defenseman.
Yeah.
Would that be enough to push Milton Keynes for that title? Who's to say? But that concludes the defenseman side of it. I'm quite chuffed we've all picked somebody different.
Yeah.
To not make it as boring.
Yeah, and we actually haven't consulted on this until now, which is
for the record, we kept radio silent with it, didn't we? Like we have not compared whatsoever. So I think that's really cool. I think I tend to keep going first now. Like, how did we do it last time? Do you want to come?
I'll go back to me if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to go for probably the obvious one, and I do feel like we've probably all got this guy.
Sure, I'll do it at the same time.
So my first forward, and probably all of us have got, is none
Alex
other.
Kent. What?
Yeah.
Is none other than Owen Sobchak of
Yeah.
the Hull Seahawks.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a real luxury of watching this guy all season.
Yeah.
And, well, I've lost words for this guy. As I like to go back to the Bees commentator again, who said that he's like the Thanos of the league and he's just inevitable.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is,
And
100%.
He's an absolute jerk shop.
I've got some really good stats about Sobby that I'd like to reel off. So obviously he was the first player to 100 points in the league, which is brilliant for us, but here's some stats for you. There's only been 5 games this season out of 52 where Sobby hasn't got 1 point. So every other game he's had at least 1 point. Do you want to guess how many games he's had 3+ points in?
11.
6.
20.
You joking?
He's had 20 games where he scored at least 3 points in it. That just speaks for volumes, doesn't it? Like, some players would be happy with a point in 20 games. He's had 3+ points.
Yeah, but that works out at what, 60 points in 20 games.
Exactly, yeah.
That is soon going.
Yeah.
That is capital letters, inevitable. And if he doesn't get the MVP this season in the league, I'll be furious.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. The points are one thing. You know, we've seen his ability to assist. He's obviously not as much with the goals, but he has scored goals. But it's just his speed, his nimble movements, his stick handling.
Unbelievable.
We've, like you say, I've been screaming like a banshee at some points with some of the stuff he's done on the ice. He's an absolute joke to watch, and he's one of the reasons why you go watch the game and you pay to watch it. You've got no issues paying the entrance fee when you're getting to watch entertainment like that.
No, it's just phenomenal, isn't he? Like every time I've seen him on the ice, they're just the way he skates, the way he keeps hold of the puck, and makes it so hard for people to get off him. It just shows what another class he is. I think you need that in your team, to be honest. And yeah, if any of us left him out, I'd have been asking questions, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think both sides of the game as well. Like, we need to give him credit defensively as well, because he's so clever. Like, he's of age now. I think he's like 31, 32, so his early 30s. Like, he's been around a bit. He knows what he's doing, but he isn't like past it. Like, if anything, he's coming sort of prime sort of era where he's playing his best hockey, and luckily we've got him. And you know, like, even just the moments where he hits back and sort of, you know, he just knows where it's going to be. Like,
Yeah.
he's just an all-round package, and he's like you said, he's such a pleasure to watch, and he's
Mhm.
absolutely fair play. Do you
So-
want to carry on with?
If
the
you want
next
to,
one?
yeah, I was just going to say that we've all seemed to have picked players now from the top sides in the league.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So it's going to get a bit interesting now with who we're going to pick for our last 2 slots.
absolutely.
I'm going to go for another obvious one. Another of my forwards is Jake the Snake Bricknell.
Fair play.
My second import
Yeah.
and last import slot of my team.
Mhm.
Again, this is another player coming into the league, an absolute joy to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned obviously in the start of the week how often he's been popping up, and
Broken 100 points himself now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, his goal scoring is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's,
We've said about he's even had like goals of the week and all sorts, hasn't he? You know,
yeah,
there's finishing and there's what this guy can do.
oh, 100%.
I think still one of the best ones is when he sat Gozzy down, went around the side,
Yeah,
and put it into an empty net.
Yeah.
That's some doing against
Our
goaltender of the season.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and he's doing stuff like that. But on the flip side, we've seen it as well. He doesn't man put his body around.
Definitely not. He's not the
No.
smallest.
Loves
guy,
a good
basically.
hit.
Yeah.
Finishes his checks, big presence on the ice.
Yeah.
I think he's been a great addition to the league this season.
From every aspect, he's an import that you definitely won't be wishing away, and you want him back if you're Swindon.
Oh,
Fan
absolutely.
base.
yeah, I
season.
agree.
Yeah, I think if Swindon want to push on to bigger heights, he has to stay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I won't be surprised if there was a few Elite League teams knocking on his door. Second or
Yeah.
third line.
Yeah, I agree.
probably. Shall I do my
Go for it.
next forward?
Go for it.
So my next forward is Jordan Cowney
That's a
of
great
the
shout.
Milton Keynes
Yeah.
Lightning.
Good shot, that.
Again, my rationale for this is he's obviously the top point scorer for Milton Keynes Lightning, and they've obviously had a phenomenal season. For him to be top of the points as a Brit as well is just credit to his game, and obviously they've got a lot of players that have got a lot of
I was going to
points.
say,
So
no disrespect to him, but if you'd have said at the beginning of the season he would be the top point scorer, I wouldn't have really had him
No,
there.
I agree.
You
He's,
know, he is a good player, but
If you went over
Yeah.
MK social media as well, you'd be so surprised at how often he gets like man of the matches and stuff like that. Not even in games where he's scoring like 5 goals or 5 points or whatever. Like he just seems to be such a good all round player and
good consistent
yeah,
player.
Yeah.
1000%. And as a non-British trained player as well, it's a class included. Like it's a really good shot that.
Yeah.
I rate it. I'm gonna leave my import for last.
Ooh.
I'm gonna do my next. What was I say? Sorry, British player. So this one is the captain of his team. He scored, I believe, 89 points this season, but ultimately, I just think his presence and the actual, contribution he has to his team has been massive. So I'm gonna go for the captain of the Peterborough Phantoms. We touched on him earlier. Luke Ferrara. I think obviously we've played Peterborough quite a lot recently. We've seen how good he is, but over the whole stretch of the season, this will be a good little stat for you as well. Considering they've got like Cam Huff and people like that in the team, Luke Ferrara is the top scoring player for Peterborough Phantoms this season as well. I believe he's got 89 points. So, if you've got a captain that's doing that, carrying you through and leading by example, then if I'm a young player like Kinniston or something like that and I see this guy ahead of me, he's who I'm aspiring to be like.
Yeah.
And that first line for Peterborough, look what they did last weekend against MK, and he was a massive part of that, Luke Ferrara. So when I was looking at all the different teams, he was one that really shouted out to me, and
Yeah.
as a non-import option, I thought, brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
hard to argue with
Yeah.
that, to be honest.
we'll come back to me because my third pick is Luke Ferrara.
There you go.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you've said there. He's been absolutely class. I don't know what else to say from what you've said. There isn't much more you can say. He's been absolutely rock solid. A lot of points, great goal scorer, great assists.
Yeah.
We've seen it firsthand. The Seahawks found out about it this past Sunday. And again, just a player that they will want to continue to have in their roster.
100%.
Yeah, and that's concluded yours, hasn't it?
That concludes my team for the
Do
season.
you want to just recap who you've got?
Yeah, so in goal for me, I got Jordan Headley of the Milton Keynes Lightning. My 2 defencemen are Jonathan Kirk of the Sheffield Steel Dogs and Rhodes Mitchell-King of the Telford Tigers. My forwards are Luke Ferrara of the Peterborough Phantoms, Owen Sobchak of the Hull Seahawks, and Jake Bricknell of the Swindon Wildcats.
Love that.
For me there, personally, my balance up top, anybody who plays round Owen Sobchak is going to bag up.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, Jake Bricknell on one side, we've mentioned his goal scoring. I think if he played with somebody like Owen Sobchak, I'd hate to see what goals he'd get. Yeah, he'd, as much as he's got like 50, 54, 55 goals this season, I think he'd be looking over 70.
I agree.
Can you imagine having a player like Sobchak just feeding you all game? Absolute joke. And as we touched on Ferrara, I think, again, he would assist both Sobchak and Bricknell, but he'd also pick up from Sobchak
Sobs
again.
isn't shy of a goal as well himself, is he?
Sobs is just that man who will just almost just sit there and he'd rather look for the pass than shoot, and the other two around him will.
I think with Bricknell on the line with them two, he'd be disgusting. He'd be in like 120 points easy.
This is like, when you think of team of the season, you think of two guys like that where you almost dream them playing together to see what would happen.
It would be brilliant.
And that would be an absolute
Not
joke.
saying that we want Sobchak to go to Swindon at all. Please do that. Please make sure
No,
that happens.
no, we'll have Bricknell come to Hull.
No offence to other imports of Hull.
But no, that's that's sort of the rationale around my team. I've gone for a bit of youth and experience in my defence. Point scoring defencemen, good readers of the game. Like you say, I think JK would help Mitchell King a lot there and probably give him a lot more in his early career at the minute.
Brilliant.
I think I've got good balance.
Okay, so shall I do my last forward?
Go for it.
Okay, so mine's obviously an import forward now, and I've got Walker Sommer from Sheffield Steel Dogs. I'm surprised he hasn't popped up in yours, to be honest.
It was between him and Jay.
Yeah.
Obviously that import slot. We was always going to go for Sobchak, wasn't we? So it was
Yeah.
always the last import, which was going to be the interesting one. I think Walker Sommer's the only one who has got maybe one or two more goals than Jake, so it's close between them.
He's close, Walker Sommer, and one of the reasons I actually picked him is because he scores short-handed goals. I think he scored 3 short-handed goals this season.
Yeah, fair.
So I just thought, with that in the team, and obviously like you mentioned, having Owen Sobchak at the front, John and County, Walker Sommer they're going to bag up as well with a relatively solid D-man. Got Thomas Norton, who obviously assists and scores points on the blue line. So yeah, that's my team of the season. Just to recap, I've got Sam Gospel in goal, Tyler Plews and Thomas Norton in defence, Walker Sommer, Jordan County and Owen Sobchak as forwards.
Love that. Right, so I'll go to my final player, my last import slot. Not one that you guys have got. Bricknell was a massive shout for me, but I went with Bradley just in terms of his defensive capabilities. I thought there was loads and loads of contenders for import forwards this year, so that's why I sort of went down that route. I think Walker Sommer is a brilliant shout as well, but one that I didn't go for as well. I personally went for somebody who was probably the biggest influence on their team this season. He averaged over 2 points a game, 2.1 points per game. He was a massive contributing factor to their cup run as well. They reached the cup final. So I don't think it's any secret that I went for Sean Miller. Another one who in a team that we obviously touched on earlier, around the 7th or 8th. I think they're 7th in the league, aren't they? To have as many points as he does, he's always up there in all of the stats, and I think he's just sort of led by example in that Raiders team. One interesting stat as well, which might be an eyebrow raiser, is his penalty minutes this season. He had 90 penalty minutes, which for some might think, why is that a good thing? But to me, he's dwarfed any other player in the team for penalty minutes. But that shows me he isn't scared to get involved. He isn't afraid to stick up for his mates, and he isn't afraid to sort of put his body on the line. And personally, for me, if you've got an import who's scoring as many goals as he is and getting as many points as he is, and having the physical side as well, I don't mind that at all. So I think he's the worthy second import in my team. So I've gone for Sean Miller.
Yeah, do you know what? I've actually really enjoyed doing this, and I'm glad there's been a lot of differences in our teams, because it could have easily all just gone the same and made this very boring.
It'd be interesting to see if I don't know how good would it be if we could actually group these teams together, get them on the ice to verse.
We've obviously mentioned about an all-star weekend before in previous episodes.
Sobchak would be busy though, wouldn't
Playing for every team.
Yeah. He'd never be off the ice.
Like three strikes.
Back and forth,
So that completes obviously our starting 6 players. I would say we did a bit of a naughty, and we've decided to throw in some honourable mentions. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Two of mine have already gone. My first honourable mention, I'm going to go for the import, was Walker Summer. I didn't obviously have a Sheffield player in my team. Here's another stat for you boys. Walker Summer this season has contributed 51% of Sheffield's goals or assists this season. So without Walker Summer, they're without 99 goals.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable for me.
That is a heavy burden to have on your shoulders, that when you're carrying a team like
exactly. And with Tremblay going, there's been even that more, even extra pressure. And going towards the playoffs, he needs to be the man who's ticking away. And they need to wrap him in bubble wrap because he needs to be the man who's going to lead them to any success. So I went for Walker Summer. He's also got the most goals in the league, by the way, with 50.
That's good.
Yeah,
so,
that's very good.
An amazing player.
So my first honourable mention was Max Wright of the Bees. He was up there. I was genuinely thinking about taking my import.
We was talking before we started recording, and even I said I would love to have put him in my goal, to be honest with you, because the guy's an absolute class act. Don't even look at the fact of where he's
got some fantastic stats. I think he's faced just under 2,000 shots, and he's still 4th in the league on the save percentage.
Yeah.
The next closest has faced about 1,500, I think.
Yeah,
and
that's so true.
It's just crazy what he's doing there in a more consistent team. I think he would be so good.
Yeah.
So
we've said this, haven't we? You could probably put him in a lot of other teams in the league, and he would be an absolute
I think one of those players as well, Brad, more to your point, is Harrison Walker, and he's only played a bunch of games. So there's only really Reddy Maher and Sam Gospel who've got better save percentages than him. So in a team like the Bees, that is an absolute testament.
Yeah,
so it's a really good shout. That.
Yeah, it is.
Yours?
You want to do the rest of your three?
Honourable mention import.
Yes. Go on.
Jake Sylvester. There's a bit of an outsider there for you. Really like him. Put a lot of points up. Good hard grafting forward.
From the Raiders.
Yeah. Done well for the Raiders. Obviously another contributing factor to getting in the cup final as they did. Like I say, he's probably gone under the radar, but when you look at his stats and what he's done this season, he's been top draw, and I think if they keep hold of him, they'll be off to a great shout again with Shaw Miller in there.
Yeah, I love that.
Two great players. That's my thought.
I like that. Okay, so one of my next honourable mentions was Deacon Fielder of the Telford Tigers.
Deacon the Freak.
I'll be honest, he was up there as well for when I was looking at my defence. I was trying to go for one, solid D-man and one person that can put up some points. He was, for that reason, I want to give him a shout out because he is absolutely solid. Yeah. I've seen people try and run into him and he's like a brick wall. And for that Telford team where they're building a bit of momentum now, and the results they've got in those hard moments, he's been on the ice. Yeah. He was on my honourable mentions list.
Absolute fair play. I rate that a lot. He definitely is solid, and when he's come to Seahawks, he's definitely shown that, hasn't he? So I think he's a worthy contender. My other one that was mentioned, as I was absolutely wounded when you mentioned him, is the Young Player of the Year. I agreed with you, Rhodes Mitchell-King. Yeah. I think 21 years of age, this kid's going to be a stud. If you aren't watching out for him already, do it, because he is some player. He puts up points. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. With JK alongside him, or I don't know, a couple more years under his belt.
Next to him would be absolutely mega.
It'd be unbelievable if we can get that solid influence next to him. And I'm not saying Telford don't have that at the moment, but even like a defensive import.
Tyler Plews, not far away from Swindon.
Imagine putting him next to a defensive import for a season. How much he'd learn. This kid's nails, and I really like him. So he was my second on my list for honourable mention.
My next honourable mention, and I can't believe none of us have actually thrown him in, to be fair, and it's Kieran Brown.
Fair.
And I think it was difficult really picking the forwards, because I think obviously we've all gone for two import forwards. Yeah. But Kieran Brown, I don't think we need to say much about him. Obviously he's been in our team of the week this week, hit his 100 points, he's missed games but has come back strong, continuously leading Leeds. Just double at the moment, league and a cup. potentially could be a treble.
Yeah.
You know, as the people say, I know Matty Davis likes to say it, but he's the poster boy of the league, and every season,
I
without
think
a doubt.
we'd have had to have considered him if we didn't put Gosling in goal, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the thing, wasn't it? It's with the rules we've put on this. You go gospel and then you lose out on picking anybody else from the leads, and it's full of absolute stars.
And there's a bunch of people like Matt Barron and people like that we've missed out. Matt Biss, exactly. Like, can you believe these names that we're missing out? And you know, Bo Neely and Mullen and people like that. Like,
that's what's made it interesting, and it for us to pick these teams.
Yeah, I agree.
It's easy just to go, let's just go Milton Keynes and Leeds because obviously the best two teams in the league. Instead, we've had some nice variation.
Yeah, so my final honourable mention then is Liam Stenson of Solway Sharks.
Nice.
I've just been hearing his name crop up quite a bit recently, and I saw him obviously at Hull, and he's just really solid. He's been integral by the looks of things to Solway's wins. And at home, I know their home crowd absolutely love him. So they're clearly trying to build something around him. Certainly in the defensive side of it, and I think he was just worth shouting out. So he was close, to be honest with you. If they want so much competition for them defensive spots, he was very close to being in my squad. So
yeah, I read that. Like nearly team them out. Like, you know, like Gritty and Stenton definitely brings that.
Well, the thing I was looking at is like for these teams that aren't performing how they should do. There are games where they should be getting absolutely pummeled on paper by teams
and sticking in them and stuff.
And they're sticking into them.
Leeds was a prime example of that on Sunday night, won it 4-2.
Yeah.
So I can totally vouch for that one. My last pick, Azza, you'll like this one, is Dom and Marcel's line mate Wilstead for the Bees. Again, we spoke also. I'm opening my book. We don't even need to open the book, really. That first line for the Bees has been fantastic this season, and Wilstead has also he's had the pleasure of playing alongside those two imports for Bees, and you know he's put up great points himself. You know, there's been a hell of a lot of reliance on that line, and they've all performed. And I think although the imports tend to get the plaudits, he definitely deserves it as well because he's been in amongst it as well, and you know. Hopefully, like I say, with a bit of building next season, I'd love to see the Bees do a little bit well, and I really hope that he's still part of that because he's had a brilliant season.
Yeah, rate that. So my final pick, and realistically, I should have gone for Bobby Chamberlain here. I'm surprised none of us has actually picked him in there because he's been absolutely top draw for the Seahawks this season.
Because we had Sobchak in.
No, but as an honourable mention, we could have thrown him in there in any of our teams. But for me, I've gone for John Dunbar.
Dunbar.
Yeah,
you know, as soon as you said the Solway as your honourable mention, I thought he's gone for the same as me. But you haven't. No, John Dunbar, again, another character that they love in Solway. He's been absolutely integral to a lot of the success they've had this season.
Class, aren't they?
Yeah, I really like him. You know, he gets on the puck, he's nippy, he gets around, and he can finish. He's exactly what you want at the top end of the ice.
He's like a little Sobchak. He's not the biggest bloke either, is he? But he just gets around the ice really good.
No, he's top draw, and like I say, for Solway, he's been mega, and he may be one of the characters that carries them into that last playoff slot. We'll see as next week comes around.
100%.
Yeah. That was good, that. I enjoyed that, lads.
Yeah.
I think overall that's been one of the better big talking points out there.
More fun for us to do, I think.
100%. As I think you wanted to get everybody else involved, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, just before we wrap it up and whatnot, I was just thinking to myself, like, obviously if it was a full team and as a team of the season, if you just look at all three of our teams here, and we've all got like the odd play that's the same, Ferrara, Sobchak, Ostley, Gospel. But say if you went Gospel and Headley as your first and second goaltenders, the three defensive lines between us would be an absolute joke, and the forward lines, if this was a full team across three lines, it would be an absolute joke.
Absolute joke shop, wasn't it?
So first of all, I just want to say a big congratulations to the players. Well done. Thank you for entertaining us this season and giving us a great year of hockey once again. It's a real privilege to watch a lot of you, so thank you. And obviously we want to throw this out to all of you. We'd love to see what you would put into your team if you want to.
Yeah, let us know. Obviously the rules are you can have 2 imports and you can only have 1 player from the same from each team. So Yeah, we've got a goalkeeper, 2 defencemen, 3 forwards. Take your pick. Hit us up, give us a message, let us know, and we'll chat about it.
It's certainly one where we will name drop people and throw out some people's predictions if you really want to. That'd be quite fun to do to wrap up for next season, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anything to add, Rossy?
Just what you guys said. Reiterate both of your points. I think a big thanks to the players. It gives us a little release on a weekend and don't make Sundays so bluesy at the end of the end of the week where you're hopping.
Sunday scaries.
Yeah, Sunday scaries. You don't want to go back to work and stuff, but actually Sundays and Saturdays are big, points of the week for us. We can't wait to go see all these guys playing, and again, that's just testament to ice hockey in general and the teams and the players. So big thanks to you guys, and I'd love to hear what everybody has to say. The beauty of this is obviously everyone's got such varied opinions and that's brilliant. But again, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So definitely get involved and put it down in the comments or send us over a DM with your teams and players.
Yeah. And that concludes this week's Big Talking Point. So now we're going to look at the fixtures for the final weekend of the regular season. There's not much really to play for apart from one massive game potentially, 2 teams still fighting out for that last playoff spot. But we'll jump straight into it. Another Friday night fixture. And no, it's not the Leeds Knights this time. It's the Milton Keynes Lightning hosting the Romford Raiders.
Yeah, a little bit of a local derby, would you say?
Not too
Romford
far,
and Milton Keynes.
London
derby. But for me, Milton Keynes, to be honest. I think Romford will give them a good go, though. I don't think they'll want to let them walk all over them. And, like you say, though, there's not loads to play for this. So I think Milton Keynes are obviously coming off knowing that Leeds have just won the title is going to be a bit sore, given how hard they've pushed this season. So there might be a few dropped heads there, but they'll go in business as usual. I think probably going to go 5-2, something like that. Yeah, I don't think it'll be huge scoring from Milton Keynes, but I think they'll win.
Yeah, quick one for me. I'm just going to go Milton Keynes to win this one. I think for Milton Keynes, it's just kind of keeping the boat going.
Business as usual.
Going into the playoffs, they just need to keep going now and not let their edge drop. There's still something to play for them and a title to be had.
Yeah, I second what both of you said there. I think Milton Keynes' biggest priority now will just be building that momentum or keeping that momentum that they've had for so long. And obviously Raiders will want something out of this, but I think if they can sort of come away unscathed, keep everybody fit, and give them a good go, then I think they'll be happy with that.
Yeah. Going into the Saturday games, the first one is the Berkshire Bees, then Sheffield Steel Dogs.
Bees at home.
Bees at home.
This is a tough one.
I'm going to go for Bees, as I would anyway. Sheffield, as I've said before, bit like this. If Bees take that win, then that means that they've guaranteed that 10th spot.
I agree with you. I think Bees have got more to play for this one. So I do think, obviously, them at home, they're going to be pretty difficult to beat. So I think they'll come away with the points.
Bees, it'll be like their last home game of the season.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sheffield will be looking towards the playoffs, needing to keep bodies fit.
True.
It's just a last hurrah for Bees at this point. So more for Bees this one.
Yeah.
You know what? Now you've said that, I was swaying towards Steel Dogs just because they have the playoffs in sight. But I think with it being the last game for the Bees, I think they'll want to go down fighting, and I think Steel Dogs would rather get a naff result and not get their heads punched in or smashed in or whatever.
Go out with a sting.
Then go nice. I think I'll go with the Steel Dogs just because they need to start building some momentum, but I can see why you guys are going for the Bees, and I'd love it if they did win that last game, just to round up their season.
Yeah, so moving on then, we've got Swindon Wildcats and the Telford Tigers. Again, could be an interesting fixtures to be honest with you, but I do think Swindon come away with this one, unfortunately for Telford. Them day two are going to be building momentum going into the playoffs. And I know Telford will be obviously pushing because they want to keep that last playoff spot. I just think Swindon might be a bit too much of a tough challenge there.
I completely agree with you on Swindon. For me, the only reason I want Swindon is because I want this to go down to the last game of the season, which we'll get on to. So Telford not winning that keeps it very interesting up to the last day, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Does, again, we're all in agreement. Swindon at the link, I think, maybe too much for Telford. I really hope fixtures go in Solway's way, but it's going to be a difficult one just for that last game. But obviously we'll move on and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to go for Swindon there.
Okay, so then we've got the Leeds Knights against the Peterborough Phantoms. Yeah, depending on how much celebrating Leeds have done at this point, you don't know, do you?
Yeah,
But no, for me, Leeds Knights, Peterborough Phantoms, we know they can play well. They come to our place last weekend and we managed to beat them. They play well at their home. I just think relatively similar to us, they'd struggle with a bit of away form, so Leeds for me.
Yeah, Leeds.
Yeah, I think Leeds too. It'll be a good one that for Seahawks fans to keep an eye on this, with these two being in that group. So these are two of our potentially biggest threats, aren't they? So it'll be an interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of like these next few games are like testers coming into play. Yeah, it's a game of chicken. And then we've got the Solway Sharks against the Milton Keynes Lightning.
Big one for Solway, needing to win.
Shark Tank in it. So.
Yeah, could be massive this one. You know, as we've said, Solway trying to get that last spot from Telford. Need a win here. As we've said, what's the mood going to be like in Milton Keynes? Can they rally, keep going? They've obviously got the game the night before, Milton Keynes. So are they going to be a bit leggy?
Less than 24 hours. Like there's a half 7 puck drop on the Friday, and less than 24 hours later they're in Solway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be the first one to do it. I'm gonna go for Solway.
Yeah, I actually want Solway to do it.
7 days at home, fresh. No game the night before, and it's a hell of a do that for MK. You know, to finish at what? If it's starting at 7:30, finish at probably 10 o'clock. Go home, get some rest, early get up to Scotland, because London to Solway as well. You know, if they're on a coach, that's a hell of a drive.
And Milton Keynes once again can't afford any injuries or anything else going into that playoff. So I fancy Solway, and I hope they do going into the last day.
I hope they do. I'm just not sure, to be honest. I think if MK can hold it themselves together and play a decent game, I still think they've got Solway's number there, so I'm going to go MK.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final fixture on the Saturday is the Bristol Pitbull and the Hull Seahawks. I'm going to throw it out there right now. I think Hull will win this and it'll be relatively comfortable. I know we're away and Bristol's not exactly around the corner, but I do think we've got the quality there just to see Bristol off relatively easy, although know that we're going to be focused on the Sunday fixture, which we'll come into, so that could play a factor.
Yeah, so my thinking on this one, Hull Seahawks to win, obviously my own team. I hope it's a demolition, if I'm honest, because I want the likes of Bobby Chamberlain to try and get them 100 points.
Yeah,
there's no reason why he can't. If he can get that, that means our entire top line has pushed 100 points.
I think he's about 7 or 8 points away.
Yeah, and there's no reason. As long as he gets it that weekend, it'd be absolutely mega. Obviously, the Sunday fixture will be a lot harder. He's obviously more than capable of getting the points. And obviously, that little B connection for me. If Bristol don't get anything from that game, that means Bees have secured that top spot regardless.
Yeah. I'm also going to go for the Seahawks. I think one thing I'd love to see in this game is I'd love him to give Davy Phillips a run out against Bristol. I probably won't put him in against Leeds, but you know, if he's back in training, he's been training the last couple of weeks, it'd be good to see him back on the ice and just to get a few shifts under his belt, get comfortable, you know, like a bit of high intensity and stuff. I think that'd be really good for him ahead of the playoffs. Like, to dump him into the playoffs would be like quite a big ask.
Even if he'd have got one period.
Yeah, obviously he's a massive player and he's played for GB and the Elite League for X amount of years, but you know, it is a lot of pressure for him just to jump back in after a long injury. So I'd really like to see Phillips in this game. I don't know if that's feasible, but without Phillips, with or without him, I'm going to go for a Seahawks win.
Okay, so moving on to the Sunday fixtures and the final fixtures of the regular season. We have the Sheffield Steel Dogs and the Swindon Wildcats. Unfortunately for Steel Dogs, I think Swindon's going to be a bit too much for them on this night, so I see them taking the win there. Not sure it'll be high scoring, but I do think probably just edge it in that one.
Yeah, Cats and Dogs. I think the Cats will go to the pound and make sure they're locked in the cages, to be honest with you. I only see Swindon winning this. I think, like I say, they're going to look to really build momentum, and I think when it comes to I just think Swindon got too much for.
This is another playoff preview, this, isn't it? Because these guys are.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thinking. I just think.
I think Swindon.
Probably
If they give him it now, I think Sheffield will be thinking, oh, we've got to play this again, and I don't fancy it.
100%. And that's why I'm back.
Demoralise them early.
Yeah. Send them a message.
Yeah.
I'm going Swindon.
So then we've got the Romford Raiders and the Bristol Pitbulls. By this point, Bristol could be
plumb last.
Yeah, they could be dead and buried. Yeah, so.
that extra venom in the laugh, like yes.
So yeah, Romford Raiders for me on that one.
Yeah, I hope it's Romford as well.
These two are two real weird teams. They just seem to be teams who can score goals and just lose.
Well, obviously, the Bees had a double header against Romford at the past weekend and took 3 points out of that head to head. So there's potential for Bristol to do it. I'm not saying that it isn't. There's chances there, but
crazily, I'm going to go for a Raiders special. They're going to go 2 or 3 goals up, and Bristol are going to win. I'm going to go for Bristol. Genuinely, it's just the story of Raiders last couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Bristol are going to win. I think Mitch Walensky's going to do a belter.
Go Bulldogs!
Go Bulldogs for the last time this season.
Okay, so moving on then, we've got the Peterborough Phantoms and the Berkshire Bees. Well, obviously, the Bees at this point, it's their final fixture, but it's away, so they're not going to have that home crowd, and the Peterborough Phantoms have still got momentum to build, so I think they will use this game as a bit of a tune-up, maybe start throwing some bodies in different positions, or resting some players if they need to.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I wouldn't write Bees off, but I think Peterborough have got more on the line here, so
yeah, I'm going to go for Peterborough as well on this one. I think Bees getting that last win they'll need to secure that 10th place at home will be massive for them. Yeah. And I think the weight will come off their shoulders and they'll go, it's going to be tough against Peterborough. Peterborough, again, they're going to be looking forward to the playoffs and building momentum there. And unfortunately, I will just go against the Bees this time, and I think Peterborough will take it.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement again, lads. I'm going to go for the Phantoms. They've got a tough game the night before, haven't they? So if it doesn't go their way, they've got to start rebuilding that momentum. And Bees are unfortunately one of those teams that you would be choosing in your rink to face, wouldn't they? So I'm going to go for the Phantoms as well. Although I think it'd be interesting to see if they play the likes of Levine and Huff and Ferrara against the gritty Bees who like to get a bit physical and see if they'd rest them instead. But
we've said it 2 or 3 times for a lot of these teams now. It's just making sure that there's no injuries. On a weekend, that's literally nothing. If you pick up any injuries, you'd be absolutely gutted at this point.
But the Bees and Bristol could play that to their advantage, couldn't they? If they've got nothing to lose, none of them are shy, are they? They'll get nitty gritty.
That is absolutely it.
So then we've got the Hull Seahawks and the Leeds Knights. This is going to be an interesting fixture for us because it's a Yorkshire derby and it's in Hull.
Last game of the season.
We will all be there, and I am going to say Hull will win this. I think by this point Leeds will know that they're going to have us in the playoffs, so this is going to mean absolutely nothing to them really. I know it's a local derby, but I think we're going to come out and try and start as we mean to go on into the playoffs, so we're going to show them what we're about. I think it'd be very, very tight, but
yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I think, as weird as it sounds, I don't think Hull win it. I think the only reason Hull need to win it is to just throw down a gauntlet to Leeds and just say, when we see you in a couple of weeks in this playoffs,
that's what I mean.
we're going to do
that.
that. I think if Leeds take this, I think as much as we've won some games recently, I haven't been massively convinced by it, and we haven't played 60 minutes. We've looked a bit shy for minutes in the game.
And also, is it like for the Seahawks, you think, we'll give them this one because then when we go into them in the playoffs, we're going to go into them. So I don't think
Seahawks would ever give any team a game. That's not in Matty's identity. Not a chance.
I
know what you mean, because to sort of get Leeds to underestimate them, but
yeah.
I think Matty said it himself. He wants a team full of sore losers, and the team that they don't want to lose to is Leeds.
I don't think Leeds fall for any of that. To be honest with you, they're too good. They're in the position they are.
You're gonna give them a win, they'll take a win.
If you want to
on to the next.
If you want to just step aside and let them in, they'll just take it. They aren't going to feel sorry for you or anything else. They'll just put you to the sword.
You don't want Declan Barmer and Bobby Chamberlain being part of a team that are and hypothetically letting Leeds
If
win.
anything, you want to be nailing them Leeds players. So in a couple of weeks they're thinking,
well,
we've got to go against them
I
again.
don't know, you say that though, but I think Leeds will know exactly what they're doing and want Seahawks to engage in that sort of stuff, because if they get someone banned for coming into the playoffs, it's...
Yeah, but for me, I'd just be saying Decky, just run someone over. Can you imagine somebody like Kieran Brown getting leathered again? He's going to be thinking, we're back there in a week. And so
David Phillips is back for the last game of the season. He's like, oh no.
You just heavy hit some of them lads there, and they're just going to be thinking, do you know what? I ain't fancying that double header.
Yeah, 100%. Make it uncomfortable for him.
Okay, so Hull Leeds.
Yeah.
No. I'm going for Seahawks. I think as mind versus heart. I think mind obviously. I think Leeds obviously with the identity that they've got and the talent and stuff like that. You would want to put money on them. However, like you guys have both said, Seahawks need to send a message now of we're still in this and you can't write us off. And I hope for Seahawks' sake that they do come away. I'd love to see like a 6-4 or 6-5 win in overtime or something like that. Even if we came out on the other side of that, just to show Leeds that we can push them. I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, good shout. So the final fixture then of the weekend is Telford Tigers and the Solway Sharks.
Essentially one of the most important ones. Last game of the regular season, and it could really be the game that decides who gets the last playoff spot. So possibly all eyes on that game. Could be absolutely massive and a big game.
What are you going for? I'm going to go Telford. So it's at Telford.
I'm only thinking of our playoff. I'd rather the lads go to Telford than go to Solway for travel. So with that in mind, I'd go for Telford to win this.
I think based off Telford coming to us recently and Solway coming to us recently, Telford gave us a hell of a worse game. So I'd love Solway to win. Solway also came and gave us a good game. Personally, I would prefer us to play Solway. I feel less comfortable with us having Telford, but in my head and heart, I'm thinking Telford can win this.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like saying what you hope's going to happen, but what you think's going to happen.
Yeah, realistically, I think Telford will win. I think as well with them having a tough game against MK the night before, they'll be licking the wounds a little bit. If they have come off a win, they'll have a really good high. But again, they've got to do the opposite. They've got to come all the way down to London. It's a hell of a trek in it. So yeah, I think Telford will win.
Yeah, are we happy?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, that ends another episode of the Slapshot Syndicate. Thanks again for watching. We really hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have. We've really enjoyed doing our team of the season, haven't we? Please do get in touch. Drop us some messages. Drop us some images of your team of the seasons. It'd be a great little talking point. Like I say, we'd love to give some of you guys a shout out. I'd like to see a few cheeky players drop in as alarm there and see what they reckon. Obviously, being on that side of the game and watching, cool. They have different opinions on some of their teammates and whatnot, so it'll be real interesting. But yeah, thanks again. We hope to see you next week for another episode. Anything from you lads?
No, just reiterate what you said. We really appreciate the support you guys have shown us just to keep the likes, subscriptions, follows incoming. We've mentioned that we've got some stuff in the pipeline that we're working on and you don't want to miss it, so stay tuned and keep up to date.
Yeah, we're putting little teasers down on the Instagram and stuff, so that is where probably you'll be able to find us mostly in it, so be sure to follow us on Instagram. We are also on Facebook and X, and obviously our podcast to post weekly to YouTube, so be sure to subscribe to us over there. But for the most part, make sure you head over to our Instagram where we have got something pretty cool coming up. We've all been in discussions, and big thanks to everybody once again.
Take care, see you next week.